Hi, it's Sunday, January 19th, 2025. As always, I'm glad to be here today and every day live to discuss the current astrology, astrology in general, and any questions that you might have. Today, I want to focus on the sun entering the sign of Aquarius, which happens later today. It actually hasn't occurred just yet. That's why I have this tiny arrow here by the sun. It's about to move into the sign of Aquarius, and you can see that Pluto is there as well. So the sun always enters Aquarius at this time of year. Happy birthday to the Aquarians out there. But it's so significant this year because Pluto is here for the first time. And so they are co-present in the sign and house. And for the next 19 years, every time the sun enters Aquarius, it will enter it with Pluto there. So that is changing things. This Aquarian season will feel quite different than they have in the past. This is a really significant shift, and so that's going to be the primary focus of our chat today. I will talk a bit about the sun in Aquarius, and if you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the chat, and I will check that at the end. And so, okay, so the sun will be in Aquarius until February 18th. And I think a good place to start when we think about Aquarius is just with those, with that designation of it being a fixed air sign ruled by Saturn. This in itself says a lot. There's the air element, which is quite mental. Then there's the fixed element, which is a bit set in their ways. And then we have that Saturn rulership, which adds sort of a little bit of sort of a no energy, a little bit of tension to the mix. So the modern ruler is said to be Uranus. And I practiced Hellenistic astrology, so I use the ancient rulers. We've only known about Uranus for a short period of time. I do track Uranus in my charts, but I don't use it for the rulerships of the signs and houses. And that's a whole track I don't want to take us down about why that is. But one thing I did want to say about Uranus being the modern ruler of Aquarius, I just always find this funny. Um, there's something about Aquarian energy that can be sort of a little odd. It's sort of with us, but not with us. And there's something about the uncomfortableness I've heard people say of the word Uranus and how like none of us really quite know how to pronounce it and you feel funny saying it, and that there's something about that that resonates with Aquarius energy, and I always find that funny and I always remember it. But really a way to think about sort of the oddness of Aquarian energy is to think about the weather. And so the seasons, this is what our system of astrology is based upon. It's based upon the actual real world happenings in the Western Hemisphere, Northern Hemisphere, I should say, um, based on the seasons, based on the movement of the planet through time, through the year, through the solar year. Um, And so the signs always equate really, really nicely with their time of year. So I always think of Scorpio as that the leaves not being on the trees, all that power sort of being held within the living things, not expressing it outward. And, Aries being the beginning of spring. And it is sort of unfortunate the way that this doesn't work on the southern hemisphere in the same way, but created by the Greeks. Majority of people have always sort of lived above the equator, so that's how it is. Anyway, Aquarius is so interesting in terms of the weather because there's sort of that oddness of it's so cold and it's so the dead of winter, but at the same time, the days are getting longer. So there is sort of that promise of something else, you know? It's not the darkness of early January anymore. We start to move into a little bit more lightness, but it's still sort of the coldest time, the real dead of winter. There's something about that that really resonates for me with Aquarius energy. Um, One of the first things that comes to mind as well is about how it's so future oriented, this energy. People with a lot of Aquarius in their chart are often talking about things that everyone will be talking about 5 years from now, but no one really wants to talk about right now. You know, they're kind of thinking a few steps ahead to the point that it's really hard for other people to catch up. Very, very future thinking. And I think that with Pluto here as well, um, that's going to be even more the case. That intensifies that energy of um, moving towards the future. It's very quick. Aquarius energy is quick. And so with Pluto being there, intense and quick, moving towards the future, it just feels like change is coming in quickly, you know, that we're really in this new era now. We've sort of been transitioning back and forth, but with Pluto and Aquarius, the other planets transitioning in the next few months, I do think that we are really getting a taste of um, this new shift, this new time period with the sun moving into Aquarius and coming along to hit Pluto in a few days. Um, Back to just sort of looking, I think that with Pluto being in Aquarius, we're all going to be talking about the sun Pluto in Aquarius so much energy that that's part of why I just want to slow down and kind of just focus on sun and Aquarius for a second to not lose our perspective on that. And then you can combine it with sort of the intensity and the deepening of Pluto, and the power of Pluto. And it makes a lot more sense. So just sort of staying a bit focused on the sun and Aquarius. One thing that I love about the energy is it sort of doesn't even understand why anyone would try to fit in. You know, there's certain things that I say to people when I do a reading for them if they have a lot of a certain something in their chart. You know, if someone has a lot of Gemini in their chart, I might talk about how there's part of them that kind of likes to keep a secret, even from their closest people, for some reason. Even if it's a completely benign secret, they just like to not be telling everyone everything. Um, and they generally nod their head vigorously. This is the case. And Aquarian energy, one thing that I talk about is that they never really understood even why anyone would try to fit in, much less attempt to do it themselves, much less have the faintest idea exactly how to do it themselves. It's just not uh, an energy that is great at fitting in and doesn't even understand the value in trying to do that. It really is okay going against the grain. So it's interesting as we move into this time period, we all get a little taste of this energy for ourselves. And we thank you for your question. I will definitely answer all questions at the end. Feel free to keep leaving any notes in the comments. Um, and I'm a bit new to this, so I apologize for the way in which I get a bit distracted by the chat. I am learning to manage this all better and better. Um, but Aquarius, this time, we all get a little taste of what it's like to be an Aquarian, right? We all carry our own chart with us, and then we also experience the transits of right now. So for the next month or so, until February 18th, we all have a little bit of this Aquarius energy active for us, and that part of our chart is a little bit more active. Any planets and points you have there are a little bit emphasized. And with Pluto newly there at this time, it feels different than it ever did before. And so that's why I wanted it to be the focus today. So Aquarius sort of, so when I was talking about how they don't understand why people would even try to fit in, there's something about this new Aquarius energy that'll feel completely that way, that'll feel that way for all of us, you know? we all might feel a little bit that way. The world might be moving a little bit more in that direction, even perhaps with Pluto being there. Um, Aquarian energy sort of likes people in theory or as a group, but not always as individuals or in day-to-day life. You know, it's like theoretically, Aquarians love humanity and care so much, but um, do they want to like talk to their neighbor right now? Maybe not. They can sort of feel that tension. They don't fit in, and they're sort of aware of that tension. They carry that tension with them a little bit. They want to, but they also don't want to. They don't really understand the value of it, but there is sort of a drive for it. So it's an interesting relationship to humanity for an Aquarian. That's why I said sort of with us, but not with us. A bit detached is a good word for it. You know, really cool, even in the heat. When things are tough, an Aquarian knows how to be cool. Not bringing a lot of over the top emotional energy to things. Quite the opposite, actually. But then they can sort of feel on a very deep level. A couple different people are coming to mind. Um, Obama, right? With his cool sort of demeanor, not over the top emotionally, but a deep lover of humanity and wanting to help people in the broader sense, but then sort of cool uh, day to day. And then I think it was that John Lennon has his moon in Aquarius and a lot of planets in Aquarius. But I remember once a teacher, I can't remember who it was, um, may have been Chris Brennan, may have been Austin Coppock, may have been a part of that astrology podcast, um, giving the example of Lennon and talking about the song Imagine and how Aquarian that song is. You know, it's sort of detached and like looking down on the world as a whole from sort of a removed way, but being very hopeful and being able to see this good future. And I think that's such a great example of Aquarian energy. And John Lennon, who wrote that, being someone who sort of embodied that energy for themselves. So the Aquarian rolled parts of the charts or any planets and points here are going to be changing going forward. And we really are already into that. We're already on the other side. Pluto is here in Aquarius. So things might feel really different with these kinds of energies than they have before. If you know your chart, thinking about where you have Aquarius in your chart and how those themes are changing for you, I do have January horoscopes up on my page, and they talk about the Sun Pluto conjunction that's occurring in a couple of days specifically, and so that can help you identify that if you watch for your rising sign, if you know your rising sign. Let me just check my notebook really quickly where I have just some key Aquarius phrases. I just want to make sure I'm covering everything in terms of the biggest idea. Imagining how things could work. You know, that Aquarian energy sort of enjoys creating systems rather than being obsessed with the ones that already exist. They're ready to move things forward and do things a little bit differently. I wrote the phrase like a participant observer. They sort of feel outside the culture. You know, Aquarian energy is the kind of energy, like it's the kind of people who would say, as humans, we do this, or humans are so funny, blah blah blah. And you're like, you're a human. You know, they're sort of a bit detached, quirky, offbeat. I think it's interesting how sometimes the opposite sign, that exercising the opposite sign can cause some relief for that sign. So, and I always like that for Aquarius, because for Aquarius, that's Leo. So there's something about being center stage for an Aquarian that can be actually very healing. There's something about getting a lot of attention, having a lot of friends, having a lot of fun, maybe doing a little performance actually, like literally being on stage and getting attention in that way. There's something in that energy that can be sort of healing. Aquarian energy, they can be great skeptics. on the outside looking in. So, how is this coming into your life more and more right now? How is this coming into the collective, into all of our experiences in a new and different way? With Pluto and Aquarius now, we really are sort of in a different time period, a different chapter. So, pay attention to how these energies are showing up for you now in the month ahead. And let me know in the comments if you're noticing anything like that. And I'm just checking the comments real quick, and I see someone talking about Libra energy. I will say that, and I will answer that now. But also, um, on my page, I did some videos with my friend Corinne, who's also an astrologer, where we talked about all of the signs, and we do about 15 to 20 minutes on each of the signs. And so that might be helpful to check out, just to like learn a little bit more about those energies. I'm just looking at my notes really quickly for Libra too, because to do a quick overview and do it justice, I don't want to leave any big thing out. I know the scales are a great place to start with Libra. Constantly balancing, constantly assessing, and trying to make things just right. I always think of Libra as, one thing I will say to Libra, like I said, always in a reading, I'll say these different things to people depending if they have a lot of energy and in that sign. And one thing I'll say if there's a lot of Libra energy is everyone thinks you're so balanced and harmonious except for you. You know that you're constantly working so hard to come off that way. You know, Libra is sort of constantly putting something on this side of the scale and the other side of the scale, trying to make it come out right. You know, is my marriage going the way it should be? Is my career going the way it should be? How am I showing up? Is that right? They're always sort of tweaking and adjusting. Um, that resonance with Venus is also really important in terms of beauty and appearance and socializing, being very charming. That's a really fundamental part of Libra as well. But yeah, definitely check out my channel and check out those videos I did with Corinne. I think they're called like Understanding. I don't know. It's right on my homepage, and I think you'd really enjoy that. We had really a lot of fun having those conversations. So I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you so much for watching. Please kick me a like if you're still here, and a thumbs up. And I'll be back again tomorrow. Have a great day.